I didn't have time in my video awarding the coveted Golden Crocoduck to give details of this year's winner of the COQ, the Defiance in Ignorance Prize, given for a creationist question made in the confident expectation that there can be no possible answer. As I announced in the awards video, this year's proud winner is P.P. Simmons. The title of the video is fine. Where P.P. Simmons came unstuck was in telling us in the first frame there's no possible answer, although he adds the caveat that the answer can't be stupid. It takes him a while to get round to the questions because first P.P. Simmons has to show that he's completely ignorant of the field of science, just in case we assumed he secretly knew the answers to the questions in advance. He starts off by ridiculing the idea that in the beginning, by which I presume he means the beginning of our universe, there was nothing, and that all of a sudden everything appeared out of an explosion. He seems to think this is the so-called Big Bang Theory. But of course the Big Bang Theory has nothing to do with an explosion. It relates to the expansion or inflation of time and space out of singularity. And the Big Bang Theory doesn't suggest everything came from nothing either. In fact, what P.P. Simmons is ridiculing here isn't the scientific view of how our universe began, it's the creationist view. After wading through this preliminary confusion, we then finally get into the questions. Yes, genes in bacteria that produce nylonase, an enzyme that can digest nylon, is a clear example of an observed mutation that's beneficial. Lactose tolerance, the ability of some humans to process milk in adulthood, is another example, so is the mutation that makes some people today immune to HIV. But evolution isn't primarily driven by mutations anyway, as I'm sure you knew. No, for the same reason I can't give you 100% verifiable proof that the Earth orbits the Sun, or that the Moon causes tides. Only religion proclaims absolute certainty and admits to no possibility of error. But I can show you plenty of transitional fossils, of course. The fossil record is full of them. Okay, once again, you're confused about this terminology. Evolution is both a fact and a theory. It's a fact because we can observe bacteria and other fast-reproducing organisms evolve into new species, so we know that evolution happens. And we infer from the changes we see in fossils as we go forward through time in the geological record, and the fact that there are ring species and different species that can combine sexually, and the fact that there are markers in DNA and retroviruses and so on, and of course the fact that we know evolution happens. From all this we know that evolution has also happened in the past. So evolution is both a fact and a theory. How does evolution deal with the appearance of atoms and other quantum particles? Answer: it doesn't. P.P. Simmons has obviously been told that already, but here's why he doesn't accept it. He thinks the theory of evolution says that everything came from nothing billions of years ago. Okay, P.P., if you're going to do a video goading people for what you think will be stupid answers, you have to learn enough about the subject not to sound stupid when you ask the question. The theory of evolution certainly doesn't say that everything came from nothing. Even physics, which is the field of science that deals with the origin of the universe, doesn't say that. The theory of evolution theorizes that organisms change over time. But if you'd like to rephrase the question, then I'd be happy to answer it, of course. How does physics deal with the appearance of the atom? Well, you only have to open a physics book to find out. If you've been looking in biology books all this time, it's not surprising you couldn't find the answer. The basic particles that make up the atom condensed out of energy a fraction of a second after inflation began. Then these particles came together to form hydrogen and helium, the simplest atoms. As for all the other elements, from lithium to uranium, they were formed by a process called fusion inside the high pressure and temperature of dying stars. There's an explanation of this in my video The History of Our Universe Part 2 on the Potholer 54 channel. No, for the same reason that if you were walking through a field and saw a foal, you wouldn't assume it had been assembled by a team of engineers, would you? You wouldn't even assume it had been made by an invisible being. You'd assume it had grown from a single cell inside another horse, which itself had grown from a single cell inside another horse, and so on. So your assumptions are exactly the same as mine, except that you think a distant ancestor of this foal magically appeared out of nowhere, based on the Bible, and I think it evolved based on the fossil evidence. Well, that's all the questions answered, PP, and quite easily too. But what amazes me is that you throw this challenge up without even bothering to find out what the theory of evolution says, and without realizing that all the answers to your questions can be readily found in science textbooks. I chose P.P. Simmons for the prize simply because he was one of the nominees for the coveted Golden Crocoduck, but there seem to be several other videos on YouTube issuing similar challenges. All of these videos are linked by the same themes, making assumptions that are based on a complete ignorance of basic science, asking questions that can be answered quite easily in any science textbook, and an arrogant assumption that their questions would have scientists stumped. Even the questions themselves are often the same. Save yourself the embarrassment of having them answered by reading a few physics and biology textbooks first. So congratulations to PP on getting the cock.